Good afternoon. Hope you're having a good start to the week and that everything is going well. We're going to do a Rashi today from the second Aliyah in this Parsha of Vayeshev. In this Aliyah, we see the aftermath of the bad relationship that Yosef develops with his brothers. They go off to shepherd in Shechem, and Yosef is supposed to follow them. Vayelchu elchav liros es tzon avihem b'Shechem. Vayomer Yisrael Yosef halo achecha ro'im b'Shechem lecha v'shlechacha Alehem, Vayomer lo hineni. Yaakov sends Yosef to go check on his brothers in Shechem, and he says hineni. One of my favorite Rashis here on this word hineni, here I am. It's a word that appears multiple times in the Torah by various avos, most famously in the course of the Akedah. Avraham Avinu says numerous times hineni, hineni. It's the underlying theme of that whole experience. So hineni, Rashi says over here, just like he does back in terms of Parshas Vayera, hineni lashon anava vizrizus. It's the language of humility and alacrity. Nizdarez limtzo lemitzvos aviv. Sorry, v'afal pi shayeh be'echav shesonim oso. He was ready and willing to go forward to fulfill the command of his father to go check on his brothers, even though he knew the dangers that were implicit in this mission. He knew how much his brothers hated him, how much they could derail him in this process, but he was ready. Hineni doesn't just mean here I am, yeah, I'm ready, but hineni is lashon anava v'zrizus. It takes a lot of humility to take a step back and say, there's something more important than myself. There's a mission that's beyond myself, that not everything is exactly how I want it and when I want it, in the way I want it, convenient for me and successful for me, but I'm still ready to be there and to serve. To really show up, to really say hineni in the fullest sense, it takes a measure of humility to retract yourself, to shrink yourself and say, the one who's asking me, is more important than me, greater than me. There's a cause greater than me that I'm ready to serve, even sometimes at my own expense. And then the Torah goes on to describe what he goes and does. Vayomer lo lecha nere'es shlomachecha shlomatzon ashiveni davar. Go check on them. Go check on the livestock. Come back and bring me word about what's going on with them. Vayishlacheu me'emek Chevron. He sends him from the valley of Chevron. Vayavosh Shechema, and he comes to Shechem, travels from the south of Israel all the way to the north of Israel. So Rashi is now curious about these words, Vayavosh Shechema, and Rashi's comment here on Vayavosh Shechema helps to reinforce that which we just stated about the nature of hineni, the whole readiness of Yosef to fulfill this mission. Rashi points out that Vayavosh Shechema is sort of redundant over here. I highlighted for you in blue twice over here, the fact that Shechem is the place where the brothers are shepherding. He says, the Torah tells us in a narrative form that the brothers went to tend to the flocks of their father Bishchem. And then he says, verbally, Yaakov says to Yosef explicitly, Halo achecha ro'im bishchem, lecha ve'eshlachacha alehem. Go and I will send you to them. To them, it's implicit that you're going to Shechem. They're in Shechem. We're told twice they're in Shechem. If you're going there, obviously that's where you're going. Now, it says he sent him Me'emek Chevron. He has to know where he's leaving from, because that's not altogether clear in the story. Plus, there's other meaning to Me'emek Chevron, because it's not really an Emek, it's a Har. So Rashi has a whole interpretation of Me'emek Chevron. But Vayavosh Shechema is certainly redundant. He comes to Shechem. He arrives in Shechem. We know he was going to Shechem. We know that's where he was supposed to go, where he was supposed to arrive. So why does it say Vayavosh Shechema? Rashi says Vayavosh Shechema, Makom Muchan Lepuranus. It's not just geographically that he arrived in Shechem. He arrived in Shechem, and Shechem here is a euphemism or symbolic word to describe all the bad things that happen in that place. Sham kilkulu hashvatim, Sham inu Estina, Sham Nechlaka Malchus Beis David, Vayilech Rechavam, etc. Multiple bad things happened in that place. Later on in history, the kingdom of Israel will be split into two because of the events in Shechem. We have the incident of Dinah in Shechem. We have all these bad things, repeated history, and the paradigm of what happens in Shechem. And we know that it's not a place where positive things happen. So when the Torah says Vayavosh Shechema, it's introducing us to the fact that he's headed straight for danger. He's headed straight to a place that he knew could be his downfall, which I think reinforces Rashi's point about Hineni. Yosef goes into this eyes wide open. He is an Anav, and he's nizdarez lemitzvos aviv. He retracts himself, knowing all of what's involved in this mission, to do the will of his father. Up here we learn he knows what his brothers are about. He knows how they feel. He knows the dangers of going to visit them. In addition to that, now what we learn in this pasuk is Vayavo Shechema. He knew he was going not just to his brothers who were in any random place, but to his brothers specifically who were in this place which represents danger, which represents distress, which represents the downfall, which represents mistakes. He knew he was headed straight for danger on multiple levels. And yet he goes. He says, Hineni. The Vayavo Shechema helps us to appreciate the depth of the word Hineni. I'm here. I'm ready, Father. Whatever you say, I'm going to do. That takes a lot of courage, a lot of self-restraint, and a lot of respect, not just for a father, but for something outside of yourself, with clearly Yosef here was ready to do. Unfortunately, we see it come to fruition. That's what transpires in the rest of the story. On both sides, the danger does come to fruition. Yosef knew what he was getting into, and it actually happens, sold into slavery. But at the same time, his strength of character, of understanding that there's a mission larger than him, there's values larger than him, is the continued story of Yosef's existence throughout the rest of the distress that happens from Shechem going on forward all the way to Mitzrayim. Yosef surpasses all expectations in holding steady to his values, whether that's in Beis Potiphar, he sees Tumus Yokno Shel Aviv, he sees the image of his father, prevents him from sinning with Eshes Potiphar, again, saying to himself, I could be taken now, I could enjoy whatever life in Mitzrayim I could make for myself now, but Lashon Anava Bezrizos Hineni, I'm still here. Despite everything, I'm still here. I'm ready because I have the humility to recognize that my father and what he stood for and those values is something important to me. And that's the continued story of Yosef's existence, perhaps why he's called Yosef HaTzadik, holding himself to that very, very high level. Thanks, everybody, and have a great day. Be well.
Thank you, Rabbi. You too, and
Okay.
everybody.
Take care, everyone.
Thank
Thank you.
You have a great day too.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Bye.